quite a story that we're all a part of. It's quite a tradition, and there's such a legacy that people have left to us and that we are doing our part to leave to others. When I think about it, every one of our lives, each of us has a story that will continue on once we're gone. So the question is not, will I leave a legacy, but rather, what kind of legacy am I going to leave? Here's a story I want to share with you this morning from the Reverend Kent Doss, who grew up here in this church in the 80s and the 90s. He sang in our children and youth choirs. And like a number of our youth, over the 97 years of our history, he went on to become a Unitarian Universalist minister now in California. His parents are members of the church. I think they're here with us today. Kent tells the story of a time when he went to visit his grandmother, who was living in a nursing home by then, and he says he had a nice visit. At this point, her attention span varied from day to day, but he says, I remember her being very clear on this particular day. We had lunch with her friends, and we chatted for a while, and eventually it was time for me to go, and I was leaving to go back to Colorado, and then out of the country for several weeks. I knew very well that this might be the last time that I would be able to spend together with her. I'll see you soon, I said, kissed her cheek, and I walked out the door. Before reaching the end of the hallway, a sinking feeling came into my gut. Why had I allowed for such a casual goodbye? Casual parting? Why didn't I have the courage to end our conversation with a real goodbye? I'll see you soon, I said. It felt like a complete cop-out, a total denial in the face of death. Perhaps I wasn't ready to let her go. After some time, I finally came to see that my last words to my grandmother were not a complete and total empty lie. I knew that I would indeed see her again soon, that I'd see her in the smile of my mother, in the wonderful, irreverent family gatherings at Thanksgiving, and most of all, in myself. Kent explains that he doesn't think that he's going to be having conversations with her in a white robe in heaven surrounded by fluffy clouds someday. Although he sounds open to that possibility, if it were somehow to happen. Instead, he says, I find comfort knowing that she lives in me. And she lives on in the fascinating and wonderful world that she helped to create. Kent continues, thousands of pages of theological texts and countless hours of class time and discussion in seminary could not give me the reassurance that my grandmother's final goodbye imparted on me and her life left with me. I will see you soon. I will see you forever. Her unconditional love is a spiritual legacy that will live on. Now today, here at All Souls, is a day to remember the legacies that we've been blessed to inherit and also the legacies that we will leave when we're gone. Recently, I heard a speech by the professional football quarterback Colt McCoy. Now I realize it's a bit risky to raise his name here in Oklahoma, since when he was the starting quarterback for the University of Texas a decade ago. He frequently beat Oklahoma University and Oklahoma State University in big upset games. Nevertheless, Colt McCoy scored a touchdown in my heart with this story. He talked about arriving at the University of Texas back around 2004 from high school, and he was so excited that he was going to be playing college football, something he dreamed about his entire life. And he explains, we checked in with the coaches, we met the trainers and the equipment guys, and I got my gear, my equipment, my shoulder pads, and my white helmet with the burnt orange sticker on it, and I got my locker all situated, and finally the time came for me to pick out my number. It was a crucial time. What number would I be wearing for the next 5 years? Our head equipment manager walked me through all the numbers that were available. I picked up number 11. That's what the number I wore in junior high school. I liked that number. I held it up and I was admiring it, and I was picturing my name on the back. I thought, I could be just like Major Applewhite. This could be me for the next 5 years. My equipment manager walked by just then and said, "Boy, put that jersey down. You will never accomplish what number 11 did. Do you know whose number that was? Put it down. Pick another number." My dreams were crushed. So I chose one number higher. I picked number 12. Then, after a record-breaking career at the University of Texas, Colt was drafted into the National Football League. And in 2010, he received a call from the president of the university and received what he says was one of the greatest honors of his life so far. In his words, they wanted to retire my number 12. Before long, I was standing on the field with Coach Brown and his wife, with my parents and my wife were right next to me. They were saying something over the loudspeakers, some highlight reels were playing on the screens above our heads. Coach Brown put his arm around me and he said, "You know, Colt, this is forever. Your name will forever be up there. No one is ever going to wear your number again." And from that moment, he says, "I've been thinking about it. Forever is a long time." In 1977, Earl Campbell became the first Longhorn to have his jersey retired. And since then, there have been 5 others, including mine, he says. If Texas continues at this rate of retiring 5 numbers every 30 years, in a couple hundred years, there will be dozens of numbers no longer available. Someday, there might not be any jerseys left. Hundreds of years from now, nobody is going to remember my name. Some university president could come along and order number 12 to be put back into circulation. He says, let's live our lives for the only thing that hundreds of years from now will still matter. Very few things in this life are truly forever. What legacy are you leaving? What legacy would your spouse say that you're leaving? Or your kids? Or your coworkers? Is it a legacy of success in business? A successful golf game? A big 401k? Or are you leaving a legacy of love and service, of humility and faithfulness? The golf game, the 401k, the big bank account won't matter. But a legacy of love and service will matter long after you're gone. That's the only thing that's going to last. Our lives, whether we're in these pews or watching from Germany or elsewhere, in New York, somewhere else this morning, have been impacted by this congregation, one way or another. This congregation has made its way into our lives, and our lives have made their way into this tradition. In other words, we are the inheritors of the dreams of those beautiful, generous, and imperfect people who came before us, who built this church as a house for a free faith, for the free mind, and for the betterment of society and human living. An old proverb says that we sit under the shade of trees that we did not plant. Let us also be planting trees for those who we will never meet, to sit in comfort and hope and inspiration. So this is the first Heritage Sunday, as Barbara said, where we don't have our minister emeritus, the Reverend Dr. John Wolfe, who came in 1960 with his wife and 2 children and served 57 of the 97 years of our history between being the senior minister and the minister emeritus. Here's an excerpt from his message that he delivered on Heritage Sunday in the recent past. Dr. Wolf says, "Many of us here, it turns out, have had enough happen to us in our lives that we've had to revise our opinions about a lot of things we believed in, or that we were told that we were supposed to believe in. But I know plenty of you who have experienced enough to have caused you to ask some very basic questions about the assumption of the popular faith that you once held up as absolute. I believe this place exists because we created it. It was no accident. It never would have happened without us and these friends and old companions who preceded us, who laid the foundation for what we have built and are building. Not just anybody would have done it. Not just anybody would have needed to do it. Not just anybody would have wanted to do it. For whatever reason, and we have some reasons, some of us are the victims of a lesser form of terrorism. Some of us have been hijacked, if not blown sky high, or been pushed out of airplanes. There are some of us who have at the very least been pushed out of churches. We were in for whatever reason and left. And so we bond together here to see if we can celebrate a faith for the free. What we do here and what we are about here is extraordinary. Not necessarily unique, but it is extraordinary given the religious climate of our times. So here's the moral of this tale. This church is not just going to happen. It did not come out of nowhere, nor is it going to continue by accident or by random selection. We have to put our minds to it and our intention. People say to me, "What do you do about the ayatollahs of the world whose madness reaches into our bookstores? What do we do about the right to life and the white supremacists, zealots who threaten our hospitals and our highways and our youth? What can we do about the political Philistines and their disciples who want to invade our schools and our play yards with their pieties?" Many things. We take sides, we start arguments, we stay awake. But first and foremost, we make a church, like this church, as strong as we can make it. And we say to ourselves, what if this church were even stronger, even larger? And what if there were more churches like it? What difference would that make? I'll tell you. Fanaticism works where there's no one to oppose it. Ignorance triumphs where there's too few to stand together to counter it. Prejudice and hate, baptized by a divine name, is abetted, even sanctioned, by a society where there's no institution strong enough to call it out by its proper name. Even madness is given currency, defended in the name of religious tolerance, where there are too few to say what it is in bold-faced sentences. And Dr. Wolf went on. Some of you are here may remember Jack Camel, who years ago was the news director of KVOO radio, who frequently called me to comment on various religious encroachments of the state legislature, of which there have been many. When we were done taping, Jack said to me, "Why is it that you're the only one of the ministers in town who I can always call and he'll say what he thinks? Why are you the only one that doesn't worry about the reaction of his congregation? Why are you the only one I can call on these issues and not get flat out no comment or sentences ending in gibberish?" I said, "Jack, purely and simply, it's because I have a congregation that wants me to say what I think." Then Camel said, "Well, thank them for me." Friends, you and I are part of a living legacy in this city, in America, in the development of human consciousness about matters of faith, and in the grand and sacred quest for freedom. What we do here together matters, and it will last long after we're gone, and will continue to shape generations of people here and abroad who we will never meet, and who will carry on some of our dreams even as they create their own. What legacy are you leaving? A successful golf game? A big 401k? 97 years from now, the golf game, the 401k, the big bank account won't matter. But the legacy, this legacy of love and service that we share will matter long after you're gone. Now, we may not all believe alike. We may not even all attend the same service most Sundays. But we are the stewards of this free faith in our times. Now, that's a life worth living. That's a legacy worth giving. And I'm so glad that we're together. I love you. Amen.
You're visiting with us online today. We love connecting with people all across the country and around the world, sharing our powerful message of love beyond belief.
There's something new happening here. You can now join All Souls as a virtual member. Our virtual membership is designed for friends who live outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and who want to engage with All Souls in a meaningful way.
You can be part of an expanding family, a global family really, wherever you are. If you live in Oklahoma,
Ohio,
or Orange County, California,
Canada,
or Cameroon. By becoming a virtual member, you'll be able to deepen your connections with members and friends here in Tulsa and with members wherever you are.
Each week, you'll receive special All Souls content tailored for you, our virtual members. Virtual members have access to pastoral care, to personal prayers, and also receive invitations to exclusive web events.
You can learn more, and if you're ready, you can become a virtual member today by visiting allsoulschurch.org/virtual membership.
We're grateful our ministries are having a positive impact on your life, and we want to share the good news of love beyond belief with more and more people. So no matter what, we need your support to keep this ministry growing and thriving, so please consider making a gift today. You can do so by texting
LOVEBB for Love Beyond Belief to 73256, or simply visit our website. You are a blessing in our lives. May you be blessed.
And be a blessing.